I mean, I still really like innovative industrial properties. I haven't looked at that in a minute, but that's a real estate investment trust that owns properties, leases them out to marijuana growers, and it pays a pretty high dividend. And I feel like if you're going to invest in pot, I mean, that seems like a good spot to be.
Right, because, I mean, most of these other sort of pure plays on cannabis, they're not paying dividends. A lot of them aren't even profitable,
right.
Or they're either looking to get bought out. So that one's sort of the best of both worlds, right? You get the steady income, and you also get the growth potential of the industry.
Yep.
So I know Brian's been bullish on that for a while. I think is that still in the Rich Report portfolio?
It is,
yeah.
It's in the portfolio.
So that's a little freebie from the gurus at the Rich Report. Welcome to the Angel Research Podcast. My name is Jason Freert. Real fast, before we get started, remember to like and subscribe. Well, just subscribe. You don't have to like, I guess. I don't think that matters. But also, go now if you can, and click on the Discord link in the bottom of the description, and you can go and chat with our guest, Alex Boulden.
Heck yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
We got to talk about Nvidia right away. So it's May 23rd, and they just released earnings yesterday, which another blowout. It's $1,000 stock now. Is it weird that people are just like tracking Nvidia almost like it's an index now? Like, why? It's just one company, right?
Yeah. I've heard that it's worth more than the entire German stock market now. And people are saying that people are pricing in the next 20 years of growth into the company. But I think that people are tracking it because Nvidia is working with so many companies that are on the stock market. I mean, Meta, Microsoft. They're going to be working with a lot of car companies, probably Tesla.
Right. So it's just the indicator of the race for these AI chips.
The demand is so high. It's insane. And that's why it's just skyrocketing. I mean, it's up 11% today, which that's before it's about to do a stock split. It just announced that as well, a 10-for-1, which is huge. And that's happening June 7th, which is right around the corner. So
yeah, let's pause on the stock split real fast, because I've always found this topic fascinating in the fact that a stock split doesn't do anything besides just lower the share price to what? Make it less intimidating to a retail investor, but that's all it does. So you're basically, it's a bullish sign for some reason, because I guess the market thinks that people just cannot rationally buy $1,000 stock.
Yeah.
And so they just magically make it cheaper, but have more than them. What is it, a 10-to-1?
It's 10-to-1.
So it's 1,000.
It's pretty huge.
Yeah, I mean, usually you're getting 2, maybe 3 in some of these like big companies. So the $1,000 stock Nvidia will be in a couple of weeks will be an $100 stock, or maybe or maybe it'll be a $150 stock or something by that time. I mean, who knows? And I guess people are then thinking, oh, well, maybe it'll just run up again from 100 to 1,000 and then keep going, and then it'll be worth freaking, I don't know, $15 trillion or whatever. So, but I've always found that fascinating, that it's all optics when it comes to a stock split.
It's I mean, a lot of investing is kind of like a mental game. It's visual too. What you're saying, it's like, oh, I don't want to put down. I mean, let's look at Chipotle. Chipotle is like over $3,000 a share. Like, who's gonna buy that in their right mind?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're talking about too with some of these people that don't necessarily even have that money to buy one share. I mean, I hear this argument about crypto all the time with Bitcoin, but it's not really the case because, Bitcoin's at what, almost, is that like 70,000 now? You don't have to buy one Bitcoin. So like, I don't have $70,000. Well, you can buy a fractional, and you can buy fractional shares too. In fact, I read your Wealth Daily a couple of weeks ago talking about these platforms like Robinhood allowing fractional share buying.
Yeah.
But there's still this mental block when it comes to a share price that is, 3 figures, 4 figures, 5 figures, or what's I don't even checked what Berkshire Hathaway is trading at.
Oh my, isn't it like, I might be way wrong, but isn't it like 40,000 or something?
Yeah, it's definitely 5 digits. So, and Buffett, I think, has said in the past that was by design because he kind of wants serious long-term investors. So I guess, you can make the counter argument on that for some of these companies is like, hey, we want to make it accessible to someone that maybe only has, a couple $100 to invest, and we want them to be able to buy a couple shares of Nvidia or Chipotle or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely know that once it does split, usually that people who were sitting on the sidelines are going to go in.
Right.
So.
Yep. They'll have their Robinhood apps open, waiting to buy when it splits.
Yeah. I mean, that in all fairness, that was me this past week. I was buying Nvidia and being like, okay, it's got to go up, right? It's got to.
Well, I mean, I think the expectations every time they announce are pretty high, and it seemingly they still continue to beat them. And you do kind of wonder if and when what will happen if they don't beat expectations. Is it going to be the quote-unquote beginning of the popping of the AI bubble? Much like the dot-com bubble.
Yeah, and I just wonder if it's, at least in the near term, it's probably not going to happen because they are creating, super chips, basically. The one that they just came out with was the Blackwell super chip, and it's able to generate, so basically with AI, with generative AI, before this, they were training large language models and visual models just based on pictures. So like for self-driving cars, they would show pictures and like scenarios.
Right.
And it would learn from that. But now they can show videos and train self-driving cars on videos. And I think that's just how it's going to move forward, and it's way faster, and it also takes a lot more computing power and memory. So the demand is just, they've kind of created this ecosystem for themselves that is just going to keep increasing demand. It obviously can't last forever in this way. But
but like you said, if AI truly is taking over, it's going to, almost every single business is going to at least be connected to this demand that's out there, and either through a service that they're paying for or running their own large language models. The video thing is interesting. I mean, some of the new, what's it called, Sora, the OpenAI video, some of the stuff that you see out there already is pretty crazy as far as like realistic video generation.
It's wild. I wonder if the Nvidia CEO is actually an AI bot. One of.
You never know, right? Somebody's gonna come out at some point, and we're gonna be like, oh yeah, this guy was actually a robot or like an alien the whole time. People think that about Elon too. So that's pretty interesting. So I do want to switch gears, though, and talk about something that you basically, I wouldn't say you called, but predicted, or last time we were talking about, and that is the rescheduling of our favorite recreational drug, cannabis, aka marijuana. What's the accepted What's the accepted term? Is it cannabis or is it marijuana? I think cannabis is what they use when
I think cannabis is probably what you want to use. I mean, well, you can use whatever you want, but
it's not weed.
I like saying weed, but pot.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think marijuana was just the one that was frowned upon back in the day. It was kind of like a propaganda
Mary Jane
scheme to get people not to want to smoke it or whatever. So, I mean, a lot of the time when I'm looking at trends like this, it's just taking the logical approach, and it's just there's absolutely no reason that cannabis needs to be a Schedule I drug. So they rescheduled it, obviously, Schedule III, which is still kind of dumb. Like, it should just be legal. Like, it's a step in the right direction.
Right, and so Schedule 3, I think, did we talk about it potentially being Schedule 2 last time, or we were more thinking probably Schedule 3?
I think 3.
So Schedule
I
3,
remember,
what are some other types of things that are Schedule 3?
Well, ketamine is Schedule 3.
Okay.
Which it's not the same thing. Like, ketamine can be used. I think it's a tranquilizer, and it can like really mess you up.
Right. And I think like I guess most steroids are Schedule 3. I think
so.
Yeah, so that doesn't really even fit within that type. What are psychedelics currently?
I think they're Schedule 1.
Psychedelics are still Schedule 1.
But here's the thing so ketamine is kind of a psychedelic. It's being used in treatment. And Schedule 3 the definition is like drugs that have a moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence.
Okay.
And I think that is a little misleading, especially with cannabis, because I mean, you can develop an addiction to anything. It's not necessarily based on the chemicals that are in that drug. Like, you can have an addiction to social media. You can have
I was going to say video games are like a big thing. Are
Yeah.
video games on the schedule?
Exactly.
No.
So
it's probably more addicting than cannabis.
I just don't think it's in the realm of the government to like be classifying these things. It just doesn't really make any sense, logical sense. And especially when there's money involved. So now they've rescheduled it. I think that's going to, quell some people for a while, but eventually it'll be legalized for sure.
Right.
But I think they're going to hold off for a little while.
Right. And we saw, stocks run up, pot stocks, I guess you could call them. It's weird when we say pot stocks. We like to say pot stocks, but not marijuana stocks or even cannabis. I guess cannabis stocks is sometimes used. So those ran up on the news. So where does that leave an investor in this? You were saying before, like, hey, you kind of want to be in these before this happens. So are you like a seller now? Are you taking money off the table with this news, or is this sort of something that is a long-term trend? You're gonna try to stick it out.
I think I took a little money off the table. Again, I wouldn't like put all of your money in this. With any kind of investment. You want to keep your positions small. Even something with like Nvidia, you're looking at the potential for it to go down. There's no guarantee that this stuff is going to go up. So just want to throw that out there.
Our generic disclaimer:
yeah.
Do not pile all of your life savings into one stock. No. I don't. We kind of have to say that, I guess. But it's common sense.
Yeah, I mean,
anybody who's listening or watching should know that.
There are a lot of beginners out there who just, don't really know where to start, and I think it's important to let people know that. So I would say I still really like innovative industrial properties. I haven't looked at that in a minute, but that's a real estate investment trust that owns properties, leases them out to marijuana growers, and it pays a pretty high dividend. And I feel like if you're going to invest in pot, I mean, that seems like a good spot to be.
Right, because, I mean, most of these other sort of pure plays on cannabis, they're not paying dividends. A lot of them aren't even profitable,
Right.
or they're either looking to get bought out. So that one's sort of the best of both worlds, right? You get the steady income, and you also get the growth potential of the industry.
Yep.
So I know Brian's been bullish on that for a while. I think is that still in the Rich Report portfolio?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's in the portfolio.
So that's a little freebie from the gurus at the Rich Report to check out. And I know there's a lot of REITs in there, and I think across not just you guys, but a lot of our editors here really like the dividends in the REITs, and it seems to be paying off in a lot of different ways in terms of just capital appreciation and the dividends that you get to keep, and you can reinvest them, or like Brian still gets the old checks in the mail, like some.
Does he?
Yeah, that's what he says. He still gets the checks in the mail and signs them on. Like, just get them direct deposited.
Yeah. That's funny.
So
that's the old school investing.
Yeah, that's old school. But hey, I mean, it's money. It's still worth the same, right? Even if you have to cash a check or it gets directly deposited in there. So, okay, great. Those are some news, and then I guess we should. These are just rumors now, but I don't know if you've been following the Ethereum ETF situation.
Yep.
So I guess some people came out and said they haven't said that Ethereum ETF is approved, but they're basically alluding that the chances are high. And obviously, when we, when that kicked off, the Bitcoin ETF sort of put a lot of buying pressure on Bitcoin. So are you thinking same kind of deal with Ethereum here? Big and where does that leave us if it's Bitcoin then Ethereum? Is a Dogecoin ETF down the pipeline?
I think Shiba Inu.
Shiba Inu.
Yeah, I mean that's what it sounds like. Ethereum is ETF's going to be approved. I guess the one that I know of off the top of my head is just the Grayscale Ethereum Trust. That's already trading. So like before, right, there was the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust too.
Right.
You could always buy those, but then other companies started coming out with their own actual ETFs that.
Then like the iShares, which I guess is iShares is BlackRock. So once again, if BlackRock is in there, it seems like they're gonna make something happen.
Yeah, they're not.
So they can make money off of this.
I think I was just looking at Bitcoin. It kind of dropped a little bit today with cryptos across the board. It was sitting at like over 70,000 these past couple of days this week. But yeah, I mean, there was data about a strong U.S. dollar, and then there was also a company that sold like $27 million worth of Ethereum or something. So
that put a little bit of downward pressure on the market.
A little pressure, but I don't know how you can. I'm not going to get into the dollar debate, but it seems like inflation is killing the dollar. So
yeah, I found it interesting. The last inflation report, they were like, "Oh, it's slightly slowing, but we're still sitting at 3.5%." And yeah, it's not the 7-8% that we were seeing, but it still is an issue that getting it from 7 down to 3.5, 4, 3.5, happened relatively quickly because that's
Yeah.
very. But
Yeah.
getting from 3.5 down to 2, I mean, that's a whole different story, right?
It's very difficult to do that, and it's going to take a lot longer than. I mean, that's what they told us too.
Right.
That's what the Fed said, that it was going to take a long time. We could just not go to 2%. Like,
Well, that was what they were discussing. I think it was last year. Like, oh, like maybe 3% is
Good
just
enough?
is
Close
just
enough?
is just the regular. You do have to align all of the things that are dependent on that, including federal spending, right?
mm-hmm.
Cost of living increases, all of these things that are built in. A lot of things follow the CPI in terms of that, but if you're projecting a historical inflation rate out for, all of this debt, and then suddenly you're like, okay, it's not really going to be 2, it's going to be 3.5.
Right.
Like, that changes a lot of calculations over a period of time.
It does.
But so far so good, and I guess that's the other thing is the longer it stays higher, it's just like, okay, if they wanted it by the end of this year, but they're saying, oh, it's going to be 2025, 2026, every month that inflation is kicking in. It's not going in reverse unless we have like a massive deflationary event, which I think they're really trying to avoid at all costs anyway, because that means massive unemployment and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Do you have any predictions for the next for rate cuts in terms of this year? You think we're going to just stay pat for the remainder of the year?
I think it's possible we get one cut.
One cut.
But I mean and it might come close to November,
Right before the election.
Right before the election.
That's what I think. I think maybe one cut to try to stimulate everything, to make everything look as great as possible going into the election, and then and hopefully and then if it has an effect on inflation, it'll either be Biden will have already been reelected, or it'll be Trump's problem, or RFK Jr. if he comes from behind.
There we go.
If he comes from behind and wins, him and his running mate, the worm.
Wait, who's his running mate?
No, it's not. It's he did name a running mate. I think from California. I don't know the person. I don't know the person's name.
Okay, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah,
because I don't know.
So, all right. Well, any teases you got for the Insider Stakeout you can give the listeners that were to look out for in your letters?
Well, the past couple of issues I've put out have been tracking political buying. That's what I've been focusing on lately. And so we've got some of Nancy Pelosi's trades in there, which I think it includes Nvidia.
Pelosi was in on Nvidia early.
Yeah, options too.
Early, and options, yeah. She was super leveraged up in Nvidia, and then pushed through that CHIPS Act, which people say like, oh, did it really directly? But I mean, she knew
100%.
She knew what was coming down, and trading options in there. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I've been following her. Basically, I'm looking at institutional or quarterly reports, and seeing what the Pelosi's have been buying, and then I've got some of Michael Burry's trades in there, and somebody else, can't remember the name, but just looking at politicians and trying to get a bead on the next big trends. So.
Yeah, and that's I was just looking at the portfolio, and it's doing really well. It's
pretty good.
I mean, it sounds simple. I mean, it's not necessarily simple because it's not like you're taking every politician and every hedge fund manager. There's certain ones that have a long derivative track record. Nancy Pelosi is one of them. But like you said, some of these other hedge funds that are buying a shitload in certain companies or industries, And it seems to be paying off, and it's a no-brainer in terms of following those. So that's in the Insider Stakeout portfolio, correct?
Super traders.
Super traders, yeah, as part of the Insider Stakeout service.
Yeah.
So we will put a link in the description for you to join Insider Stakeout.
Check it out.
And track alongside the politicians with Alex Boulden. And, of course, the link to the Discord.
Discord's fun. Yeah,
hop in there, say what's up. I think we're probably, by the time this comes out, we might be over 1,000 members in there. It's free to sign up to chat. There's some special channels for some of the premium subscribers, but the main investor club is free to anyone to pop in there and give us your thoughts on the market and say what's up. So with that, I think we'll call it a day. And thanks again, Alex, for coming on.
Cool. Thanks. See you guys later.
Adios. Boom.